Tell me about Bubba.
Bubba he was famous.
Okay.
I mean, really famous.
Okay.
And one day there was a couple of people down at Auburn. And one of them was I don't know their names, but they were talking about him, and
This is a real story.
Yeah.
But tell, I want to know about Bubba. Yeah, we do.
And Bubba, I mean, this guy says, I want you to meet this friend of mine. He knows everybody. Everybody in the world knows who he is. And so he says, I don't believe that. He says, well, I want you to meet him. And so anyway, on the way down there, he says, if you can get one person that doesn't know Bubba, then he's going to give him something. I don't know what it was. But anyway.
A lot of land.
I don't know. Anyway, he says, when we meet Bubba, you tell him in person, and if he doesn't know it, then that'll be the first time that's ever happened, because he knows everybody. And so they got through the game and went outside, and they met Bubba. Was sitting around, starting around talking to some people and everything. And so he says, Bubba knows everybody. And Bubba says, yeah, I know most people. And I probably do know everybody. And anyway, he says, the guy says, I'll bet you do not know President Clinton. He was the president at the time. I bet you do not know he wasn't. No. Let me see who's president. Kennedy. He says, I bet you don't know President Kennedy. He says, I do know President Kennedy. Know him real well. Been friends of his a long time. And the guy, Bubba, says, I bet you don't know him. He says, oh, okay, I'll bet you I'll prove it that I know him. And the guy says, all right, you go up to the White House and take me up to meet him, and I'll know for certain you know President Kennedy. And so he says, okay, well, Bubba had an airplane. And so they got in the airplane and they flew up to Washington. And they went to the White House, and the guard says, hey, Bubba, you want to see the president? And the guy says, yeah. And Bubba says, yeah. He says, well, go on in. And so they went in and went up to the White House, went in the White House. And, of course, the staff member said, hey, Bubba, you come to see the president? Yep, I came to see him. And so says, wait here and let me see if he's out of his living quarters yet. And y'all can just go on in and wait for him in the office there, and in the presidential office. And so they said, okay. So they went in and waited. The two of them went in and waited in the presidential office, and in a little bit, Bubba the president came walking through the door. Door got up. Bubba got up and says, hey, John.
What?
You know, President Kennedy's name was John
Yes,
Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy.
Okay, he said, hey, John, how you doing? And the president said, Bubba, good to see you, buddy. He says, it's been a while since I've seen you. And he went over there and they gave each other a hug and everything. And they talking to this guy, and this guy was just amazed that he knew President Kennedy.
Right.
And so after a while they got back, and he says, I'll bet you do not know the Pope. He says, I know the Pope.
Oh boy.
And so they flew over to Rome. Well, that's where the Vatican is, you know.
Oh my God.
They flew over to Rome, and they went to the Vatican, and it was on Sunday that they went over there.
Hey Dennis, did you hear me there?
Yeah.
Did you hear?
I heard you. I'm listening. He asked me a question.
Do you know Bubba?
I don't know Bubba.
Okay.
Everybody knows Bubba. Everybody knows Bubba.
Everybody knows Bubba.
So they flew to Rome, Georgia.
No, they flew to Rome, Italy.
Italy.
And they went to the Vatican. It was Sunday. They went to the Vatican, and there was thousands of people out in the yard and out in the place where they gathered.
Yeah.
And so they were standing there and says, well, we'll go inside and visit with him, and so they made their way through the crowd, and they went into the Vatican, and the guy says, hey, Bubba, come on, I'll take you in there to see Pope. I forgot who the Pope was back then, whatever his name was. So they took it in there, and the Pope says, hey, Bubba, good to see you. And so they talked for a while, and he says, look, I've got to go out and give a prayer to these people out here. There's thousands of them out there, and they're expecting me to see me out on the balcony. And so they went out there, and the Pope says, come on out there with me. And so Bubba went out there with him. Now, the friend didn't go out there with him. The friend was still waiting. He wasn't in there. He was out in the crowd. He went, after the Pope met him and everything, he went out in the crowd. And he was going to listen to the Pope give his, whatever he gives. And the Pope, and so he was standing there, and the Pope came out, and this guy came out with him, and so he got up to the front, and he started to dress the cow. And this guy that was standing next to the guy that wanted to know whether Bubba knew the Pope or not, says, who's that with the Pope? I mean, with Bubba.
Who's that with Bubba?
Who's that with Bubba?
Who's that with Bubba?
Because everybody knows Bubba.
Everybody knows Bubba.